Where did all the women over 50 go? Not literally, obviously, because we're everywhere. But look at the stories we see on the television, advertising, magazines, and social media. And sometimes you could be forgiven for thinking that once women reach a certain age, our lives suddenly become much smaller. And I think we need to change that. So our lives don't become less interesting at 50. Women in their 50s, 60s and beyond are starting businesses, changing careers, going back to university, traveling, learning new skills, competing in sport, dating, falling in love, leaving relationships, building wealth, and doing things that they may never have imagined doing 20 years ago. And yet those aren't always the stories that we see reflected back at us. Now, I don't want women over 50 to be represented only through menopause or retirement or caring responsibilities or being somebody's mother or grandmother. Those are all very real parts of women's lives, but they are not the whole story. Representation changes what we believe is possible. And I think seeing women doing things matters. When we see a 60-year-old starting a business or a 55-year-old learning to surf, a woman going back to university at 70, or somebody deciding at 52 that she's going to completely change direction, it quietly challenges the idea that there is an age by which we're supposed to have everything worked out. And it says this is possible too. And perhaps someone listening to this thinks, actually, maybe I could do that. So I want to start telling more of these stories, and I need your help. So I'm looking for women over 50 who are doing or learning something new, challenging a stereotype, breaking a barrier, or simply doing something that people might not expect a woman of her age to be doing. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. Maybe you have started studying or taken up a sport or learnt a new technology, or you've been travelling alone, launched a business, joined a rock band. Maybe you bought a motorbike or learnt to swim. Whatever it is, I want to hear about it. Because perhaps the answer to where did all the women over 50 go is that they are right here. We just need to tell more of their stories. And speaking of conversations we don't hear nearly enough from women in midlife, the next episode of Unfiltered and Unbound is going somewhere mainstream conversations still don't always go comfortably. Sex and intimacy in midlife. Now, this is a listener-requested episode. I sat down with sex therapist Naomi Hutchings for a frank conversation about intimacy, desire, boundaries, and asking for what we want and why communication matters in the bedroom and well beyond it. And yes, it's an adult conversation. That episode is coming next week. But until then, if you've got a story about doing something new after 50, breaking a stereotype, or refusing to accept that something is not for women our age, send it to me. I'll put some details on how you can contact me in the show notes because I would genuinely love to hear about it. I'm Kate Baxter, and this is Unfiltered and Unbound. This episode includes a frank discussion about sex, relationships, and intimacy. Welcome to Unfiltered and Unbound. And I think you're right. You need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you need to have the brave conversations. And instead of waiting for someone to meet your needs, what better way to do it than ask for it yourself? If you don't ask, you don't get.
I think anxiety does that a lot, right? Anxiety takes us to the very worst case scenario. And sure, that might happen, but also many other things might happen, which is this.
That was just a snippet of the upcoming episode on sex and intimacy in midlife with my guest, Naomi Hutchings. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss this episode when it drops.